Okay, thanks, Brandon. Welcome, everybody, to the 6 p.m. City Council meeting of February 1st, 2022. The roll call reflect that all council members are present. First item on the agenda is opening ceremony. I'll defer to Vice Chair Lopez for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Chair. Feel free to turn off your video if you like, and please stand if you're able and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lopez. Please consider joining us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, first item on our agenda is a recognition for Black History Month. We have asked Councilmember Chaburka to read this joint proclamation for us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to do so. Declaring February 2022 Black History Month in Ogden City. Whereas throughout the history of Ogden, many African Americans have come to call this community their home. The expansion of the Transcontinental Railroad brought many African Americans to the area where they raised their families. This rich diversity provides a community character that is distinctive from all other cities in Utah. Having a diverse population enriches our community and serves as one of our greatest assets. And whereas the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, the ASALH, first sponsored a week to recognize African American history in 1926, which gradually evolved into a full month of reflection after the Civil Rights Movement until it was officially recognized as Black History Month by President Gerald Ford in 1976. And whereas ASALH's 2022 theme for Black History Month, Black Health and Wellness, focuses on initiatives, activities, and rituals that Black communities have done to foster good health and wellness. It acknowledges the contributions and legacy of Black scholars and medical practitioners in Western medicine. Black families continue to play a crucial role in the overall health and wellness of our community. And whereas contributions of the African American community have positively impacted Ogden, from the first African American officer in the Ogden Police Department, Marshall N. White, to the many influential individuals and organizations who continuously advocate for Black families, such as the NAACP, Dr. Forrest Crawford, Betty Sawyer, Adrienne Andrews, Sarah McLennan, and others. Ogden has benefited from and will continue to feel the positive impacts from the African American community. And whereas we cannot afford to forget the dark chapters of slavery and violence that African Americans have endured and still endure today, these and any acts of racism must not be ignored. We must learn from these lessons to advance as a community while working together to build a brighter future. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim February 2022 Black History Month in Ogden City. We express our sincere gratitude and recognition for the local branch of the NAACP, Weber State's Diversity Office, the Diversity Commission, and all others within our community who work to create unity, to represent the underserved, and to create an inclusive environment. So I will motion that we adopt this resolution.
Second. I have a motion by Councilmember Chaburka, second by Councilmember Blair to adopt this joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes. We are joined this evening by Betty Sawyer from the Ogden branch of the NAACP. Brandon, can you cue her up for us? Okay.
I see her
Betty,
square lighting up. Yeah, I see her square lighting up, but I don't hear her.
I'm here. I don't
All right.
see. I don't see my face, so I don't know if you can see me this evening. But first and foremost, on behalf of the Ogden NAACP, we thank you for this resolution, and not just it in as a symbolic gesture, because I know we do quite a bit of that, but we're hoping as we honor Black History Month and our founder, Carter G. Woodson, today and throughout the year, that we embrace the theme that has been selected this year around Black health and wellness. When we look at the health indicators within Ogden's inner city, as well as those in that zip code 84401, we find that residents living here are significantly less healthy than those throughout our city, those throughout our county. And I think we have a responsibility to look at the work that we're doing each week that you've been challenged to do to help make Ogden a better place, to look at that work through an equity lens so that the things we do can impact those social determinants of health that impact us all. As we address the health and wellness of our Black residents, we impact the health and wellness of everyone. And as a part of that, being sure that those services that we offer are available, affordable, accessible to all people so that we can continue to promote Ogden as this wonderful place to live, filled with outdoor recreational amenities that, again, everyone can access those to promote better health and wellness. Because whatever you try to do, if you don't have good health, it just impacts everything so much more and limits our ability to fully enjoy those things that we have worked our entire life to secure. So I just commend you for your work. And again, beyond something that we do symbolically, I'm hoping that the actions that we take as a council, like I said, week by week, are working to eliminate those disparities around the social determinants of health, housing, education, employment, all of those things that we all depend on. So thank you all again, and look forward to working with you throughout the rest of this year to address these issues again with equitable lens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Betty. Appreciate you being here and everything that you guys do. Okay, next item on our agenda is Idle Free Month. This is a joint proclamation declaring February 2022 as Idle Free Month in Ogden City. Council member Heyer has offered to read this one for us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It is my pleasure to do this reading, declaring February 2022 Idle Free Month in Ogden City. Whereas, like many valleys along the Wasatch Front, the physical geography of the Weber Valley, where the Ogden area rests, is prone to inversion, which results in poor air quality. This threatens our quality of life and is hazardous to the health, safety, and well-being of our community. And whereas vehicle emissions are a significant contributor to the air pollution and releases harmful pollutants into the air, which can cause and aggravate asthma and other respiratory diseases, especially during times of inversion. And whereas a simple method to mitigate poor air quality is to reduce unnecessary idling and driving. There are many opportunities to reduce unnecessary idling, such as not warming up the car in the morning, turning off a vehicle in a drive-through while picking up and dropping off children at school, and while waiting for prolonged periods of time at train crossings, car washes. And whereas the vehicle emissions can also be reduced by planning travel ahead of time, consolidating car trips, and using other transportation options, taking advantage of public transportation, walking, bicycling, and carpooling are options that all help to improve our air quality. And whereas those who reduce unnecessary idling and driving save on fuel costs and conserve energy, and most importantly, contribute to the overall health of our community. Now, therefore, The Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim February 2022 as Idle-Free Month in Ogden City. We appreciate the efforts of our partners, Ogden School District, the Weber Morgan Health Department, and Weber State University in helping to bring awareness to this important issue. We encourage residents, businesses, and community groups to join in this and other efforts to reduce unnecessary idling and driving throughout the month and the entire year. And with that, I'd make a motion that we do pass this declaration declaring February 2022 as Idle-Free Month in Ogden City and acknowledge our partners in their efforts as well.
Second.
Second.
So it's
Marsha beat me. Marsha beat me.
okay. She was not sitting idle. So we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember White to adopt this joint proclamation declaring February 2022 as Idle-Free Month in Ogden City. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Chair,
That passes. Yes, Rich.
one thing I noticed today is UTA has declared the whole month of February as free fare time. That's a pretty good thing. I just wanted to mention it here. So those who might be listening, who may not have been aware of that, it's free to travel on public transit for the next month.
Good plug. Thanks, Councilmember Heyer. We are also joined by, and please correct me if I pronounce your name wrong, Kayla Lemons from the Weber State University Sustainability Club. Lori Butters, our Weber Morgan Health Department, who we get to hear from in the news these days, and Jared Bates from the Ogden School District. All three are here to accept the proclamation. Brandon, do we have any of those three on that we can promote to a participant or panelist?
Yeah, all three are here, so they can talk about their efforts in any order that you prefer.
Okay, let's start with Kayla, and she can tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yes, sir. It's Kayla.
Kayla, thank you. My apologies. Kayla.
No worries. Thank you, council members, for the invitation to speak this evening. My name is Kayla Lemons. I am a senior and a student sustainability coordinator at WSU. Weber State University is proud to partner with Ogden City Weber Morgan Health Department and the Ogden School District to celebrate Idle-Free Month this February. At WSU, we are strongly committed to significantly cutting our emissions and improving air quality along the Wasatch Front. During the month of February, WSU will be hosting an internal Clear the Air Challenge where colleges and divisions will compete against each other to cut their emissions by utilizing alternative transportation, carpooling, and trip chaining. We would also like to invite everyone to attend our Air Quality Symposium event being held on February 9th at 12:30 p.m. This event is being co-hosted by the WSU Walker Institute of Politics and Public Service and the Energy and Sustainability Office. Kim Frost, Utah Clean Air Partnership Executive Director, Dr. Daniel Mendoza with the University of Utah Department of Atmospheric Sciences, and Dr. Liz Joy, Intermountain Healthcare Senior Medical Director for Wellness and Nutrition, will be sharing their expertise with us. In addition to these upcoming events, I would love to share a few of the air quality related accomplishments of our WSU community. In 2007, WSU signed the American College and University President's Climate Commitment, whereby we agreed to eliminate our emissions and become carbon neutral by the year 2050. And we've made significant progress on that goal and are now a decade ahead of that schedule. Since 2007, WSU has cut its electricity consumption by 37%, cut natural gas consumption by 48%, sourced 37% of all purchased electricity from renewable sources like wind and solar, with a goal to source 100% from renewable sources by the year 2040. We've installed 3 ground source fields to reduce and eventually eliminate the need for natural gas on campus as more buildings are converted and additional ground source fields are installed. We've implemented an anti-idling policy and installed several purple air quality sensors on campus. We've transitioned 5% of our fleet over to electric vehicles with a goal to only purchase electric by the year 2025, and we've installed over 20 electric vehicle charging stations on our campuses. We've provided our students, faculty, and staff with free UTA Ed passes to encourage and make the use of alternative transportation more accessible, and are partnering with UTA, Ogden City, and others to install a new bus rapid transit system that will hopefully make choosing alternative transportation a more convenient option. Currently, we're also updating our campus transportation master plan to make our campuses more micromobility friendly. So these are just a couple reasons why I'm proud to be a Wildcat. But by participating in Idle Free Month, we're putting into motion a collective vision and deciding for ourselves as Utahns what we want our present to look like. We're honoring the rich history of our city by caring for the unique environment that shaped it, and that will support a quality of life for Ogden residents well into the future. So I am grateful to Ogden City Council members, Mayor Caldwell, and all those who have partnered with WSU for showing their dedication to sustainable leadership today for tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. You're going to make it impossible with that good of an impression for me to ever mispronounce your name again. So thank you for that. That was impressive. Do we have Lori with us?
Yes, we would just like to say thank you to Ogden City for leading out on this. This has been a great partnership for several years, and we're excited that it's moved to a whole month this year from the week that we've had in previous years. This has been an opportunity for our residents to try their hands at some of the techniques that we can use to reduce idling, whether it's taking the bus for the first time, carpooling, turning your engine off when you're waiting for a COVID test. We're looking for new ways to just educate people, and Ogden City has been a great proactive promoter of clean air, and we're just really excited about our partnership with Weber State, which is a trendsetter among all the universities for their proactivity on air quality. And we love our young kids that jump in and want to tell their moms to not idle as they come to school. And this has just been a great opportunity, and we really appreciate Ogden for leading out and our partners for jumping in wherever they can. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And we just really hope people will participate in what we've got going on for a whole month. That's a great thing. So,
Lori, we appreciate your appreciation, but I think we owe you our appreciation and then some, as well as those of your colleagues. All this discussion of cleaner air and community health and social determinants of health in the prior item.
We do have a program that I'd like to tell you about. It's called the Vehicle Replacement and Repair. This is for anybody who gets a failing test when they go to have their car tested. If you qualify financially, there's a program that will help put money towards a repair or replacement to help you meet the goals of the program to reduce emissions, and the whole purpose that we have that emissions testing program in our area. And so please help us spread the word if you can. If you know somebody who got a failing test, we would love to help them if they qualify for this program, fix their car so they can continue commuting healthy and safely through our area here.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. And Jared Bates, you still with us, brother?
Thank you very much, Councilmember Nadolski. And I thank you to everybody. And on top of everything else, thank you to Lori, because you just reminded me that my vehicle registration expired yesterday. So I'll try and get that taken care of as well. But I want to echo the sentiments of the Ogden School District's appreciation to Ogden City in leading out on this. Yes, Weber State University is a wonderful partner and example with everything they're doing. And the Weber Morgan Health Department really is a driving force behind trying to achieve cleaner air in our community. But having the weight of this proclamation led by Ogden City Council is really an important thing to give impact to our community. We appreciate so much the daily role of adults educating children, but just like Lori mentioned, there's something to be said for the power of a child educating an adult. And when that child can say, hey, mom or dad, turn off the key, don't let the engine keep running while we're waiting. That can carry a lot of weight. That can be a powerful thing. And the city and the health department have partnered with us, continue throughout the years. And again, this year in providing materials for our kids so that it gives them the reminder they need so that they can then carry that message to the adults to say, turn your key, be idle free. That's what we want. And just earlier today, I was at one of our elementary schools where we had some students giving a display of the flag system that they use to display to our surrounding community what's the air quality today. They do that every day, and fortunately, recently we've had some green air days, but as we all know, here along the Wasatch Front, especially during the winter, those orange and red and even purple days are far too common. And this can be a very simple effort that anybody can do. You don't necessarily have to go buy an electric vehicle. You don't necessarily have to change everything you do about your daily routine, but anybody can do this. And it's so simple that there's really no reason for anyone not to participate at this level. And so again, we thank all of our partners, Weber State University, Weber Morgan Health Department, and especially Ogden City for leading the way and being a partner in this great initiative.
So Jared, thanks for sharing, and maybe with your registration oversharing just a touch. I don't see our police chief on the list of attendees tonight, so I think you're okay for now. So, but that does remind me of my own, so thanks. Okay, well, thanks you guys for coming, Kayla, Lori, and Jared for joining in this. Wouldn't be possible without our partners in the community. So thank you so much. Okay, next is an item of common consent. This is consideration of the appointment of Angela Chaburka to the Weber Morgan Board of Health.
Chair, I would make a motion.
Sorry, Bart, go ahead.
Second.
Stalemate, go ahead, Bart.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'll make a motion to adopt the item listed under common consent.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks for sorting that out, gentlemen. We have a motion by Council Member Blair, second by Council Member Heyer to adopt the item of common consent. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Best of luck, Angela, and thank you for representing us on that very important board, especially now.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, reports from the Planning Commission. Greg Montgomery will report on the proposed rezone at 975 Washington Boulevard.
Okay, so this is a petition the city received a little while ago to rezone 975 Washington Boulevard from its present C2 commercial zoning to a C3 commercial zoning with a conditional overlay. And that conditional overlay is to allow a repossession impound lot for the credit union located at that address. Over time, the credit union was able to acquire the property that kind of made a U shape in its layout. It was along Keesler Avenue, a single family home. They were able to acquire that so they could have a square site. And as they did that, of course, they wanted to make the site more useful and to meet some of the needs that they have. So they proposed to do an impound repossession lot as part of their operations. And in order to do that, they had to rezone the property because we don't allow the impound lots in the C2 zone.
Hey, Greg, are you showing slides at the same time?
Oh, it's not showing. Okay.
Not showing.
I thought this time I won't ask do you see it, and I'll just move forward. Let's see. Let's try.
Let's pay attention this time. Perfect. Thank you.
There we go.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me just back up showing the location of the credit union on 10th and Washington, and then that house that's kind of in the middle, that's off Keesler Avenue. They were able to acquire that. And with that, then integrate it into their entire site, but they needed to rezone in order to use it for what they wanted to do for their impound lot. So they had started work beforehand, and then were reminded they needed to rezone. So they had done some improvements to the property already. But they came back, petitioned, and this gives you kind of an existing condition of the site at this point. The went through 2 planning commissions to try to establish the standards for the conditional overlay, which is what that CO means. That if it were not for this specific use at this specific location, we would not consider rezoning, because generally impound lots are noisy, have lots of traffic happening all times of hours, and take up a lot of space, and aren't sometimes the best neighbor when you're across the street and you're zoned residential. And so the Planning Commission had some concerns about how the circulation would work, how the lights on the lot would work, and also just how to maintain the frontage along Keesel Avenue to have a pleasing appeal to it by having a landscape setback. With that conditional overlay, then they established some criteria for hours of operation, that there wouldn't be any additional lights out there, and the impound lot would be screened, and in this case by actually a stone fence. And they would have that 30-foot landscape buffer along Keesel Avenue. And that, more importantly, the operation would enter the impound lot from the north side of their commercial lot, rather than on Keesel Avenue and doing a lot of the maneuvering on Keesel, and exit only from Keesel Avenue. Those became the conditions of the proposal, and the Planning Commission is recommending to you to rezone the property to the C3 conditional overlay with the development agreement that outlines these criteria that I've listed here on the site. That is only accessory to the federal credit union, that it can't be in the future just an impound lot if the credit union decides to leave, and that it complies with the state requirements, and they do have that screening fence around to, again, with the homes across the street, protect their views. And so that is the recommendation.
Are there any questions for Greg for these items from anybody? All right, back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Trying to get some calories in while we're doing this. Okay, if there's no questions, this is an opportunity to receive public input on this item. If you care to address the council on this item, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Brandon, you see anybody on your side with a hand raised?
Well, here's the thing. It's they're unable to raise their hands at the moment, so I will change that. I apologize. Okay. If you would like to comment on this item, address the comment or address the council on this item, you can do so by using the raise hand feature within Zoom found at the bottom of the application. If you are watching us via YouTube or Facebook, you will be not able to do that. So if you do want to comment on this, hop over to Zoom really quick and use the raise hand feature. Sorry about that.
Thank you for the assist, Brandon. We'll give folks just a brief moment to chime in if they're interested. Okay, seeing no hands raised. Comments by council or entertain a motion?
Chair, I would make a motion to adopt proposed ordinance 2022-2.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Ritchie, second by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed ordinance 2022-2. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez.
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye, that passes. Thank you, Greg. Next item is proposed rezone at 3432 Ogden Avenue. And I believe this one is Barton Brierly presenting. Barton, take it away.
All right. Good evening, Chair Nadolski and city councilors. So this is a request to change the zone of a property at 3432 Ogden Avenue. Okay, so the property is just south of an existing crematorium on Ogden Avenue. They're asking to rezone it from the current zone of R16 to a C3CO, which would be a commercial zone with a conditional overlay. The conditional overlay would limit the use to mortuary uses. It's proposed to expand to accommodate expansion of the current mortuary facility on Ogden Avenue. Here's site photos of the property. There is an existing house on the property, as you can see in the top photo, and it is adjacent to the existing crematorium facility that you see on the bottom photo. I'm looking at this zone change. This is part of the T.O. Smith Community Plan. The plan actually anticipated that we would get requests for rezoning along Ogden Avenue and set up criteria for consideration of when those would be appropriate. So I'll go over these criteria briefly. Two of the criteria is that it be associated with commercial use across Ogden Avenue. And this is associated with the existing mortuary, which is on Washington across Ogden Avenue. Another criteria is that there's not adequate space on Washington to accommodate the use. And in this case, we felt that they could convert the parking lots to a building, but that would probably cause more impacts on the neighborhood by bringing traffic, having to add a parking lot on Ogden Avenue or do parking along the street. So feel that these criteria are met. There are standards that there be a landscape setback and a screen hedge adjacent to the property. And so those are conditions of the conditional overlay. There's a requirement there be a single access, which there would be. There's a requirement that it not isolate parcels. And in this case, it would be adjacent to the existing facility just to the north. The criteria require that the building be of residential character. And here's a picture of the existing mortuary facility. It's a low single-story building with a brick facade and is in keeping with the scale of residential development on Ogden Avenue. And the proposed expansion would use that same style. So feel that this criteria would be met. So the Planning Commission met and made a recommendation 7-0 to that the council approve the zone change with conditions, which would include the conditional overlay that would limit it to the crematory or columbarium. There and the other conditions you can see, for example, there'll be brick siding, no exterior lighting, and one access to Ogden Avenue. So the Planning Commission and staff recommend approval of the zone change.
Thank you, Barton. Any questions from the council? Okay, seeing no questions, this is an opportunity for the public to provide input. If you care to address the council on this item, use the raised hand feature. Brandon, are we activated on all fronts on your end?
Affirmative.
Jack, thank you. Okay, seeing no hands, back to the council. I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, this looks pretty straightforward. I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2022-3.
Second.
I didn't hear who that was, so I'm going to go with Councilmember Chaburka, who I definitely identified. Motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Chaburka to adopt proposed ordinance 2022-3. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Councilmember Hire,
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye, that passes. Thank you, Martin. Good job. Back to Greg Montgomery for proposed zone text amendment for accessory dwelling units.
Ask, are you seeing this?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
So unlike the other two, this petition or this consideration is actually staff generated. And the reason for the proposed revision is to address changes that have been made to the state law. This last legislative session added provisions that what they call interior ADUs, accessory dwelling units, could not have limits in terms of their size, which in Ogden City's ordinance we have. As we also looked at it, we realized there's some processes that we have for an accessory dwelling unit in the ordinance, which we really don't follow. So we looked at this as an opportunity to take both what the state law allows us to do and what the state law is requiring us to do to make some changes. First of all, removing the ability or removing the language of prohibiting the size of an internal accessory dwelling unit. Also, some of the other items in the state law we already have in place that we don't prohibit them based on lot size. We do require a permit for them. We do require them to be owner occupied. We do require that they cannot be vacation rentals. That's a separate process and cannot apply to an accessory dwelling unit, where the accessory dwelling unit is meant to provide housing for people rather than a tourist type situation. And also adding something that as we move forward with this, to make sure that in the future people realize that this accessory dwelling unit is tied to owner occupancy and not becoming in the future a rental duplex system. So, as I mentioned, our current standards talk about 40% of the habitable floor area. This is now being proposed to be removed with this ordinance revision. Also, our present ordinance talks about a business license. That no longer is required. And so we've removed that. There is some language in the state legislation that cities can limit the amount of areas for accessory dwelling units. Presently in Ogden, we have a couple areas where they are prohibited because of the community plans. That amounts to 16% of our residentially zoned area. The provisions actually allow us to consider up to 60% being restricted. But one of the policies we've had as a city is to encourage accessory dwelling units as one of the means to, again, address the housing issues that the city faces. So the proposed revision removes the floor area, removes the business license requirement, and what we now will require is just a no-fee land use permit, which, again, after they go through the process of an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, verifies that this is not a duplex, it's owner-occupied, and then we record with the property that in the future, if someone looks at this and it changes hands, it's clear that this is an accessory dwelling unit and not a duplex. And also some clarifications in the language regarding the egress windows from bedrooms that is required to be met as conversion may take place to create a bedroom in an existing basement. And so the Planning Commission, as they reviewed this, have recommended to you 6-0 to recommend approval of these text amendments, as well as complying with the state law and making changes that are needed in our local processes.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions from the council? Not that we have much of a choice on this one, but input from the public. This is your opportunity to address the council on this item. If you care to do so, please use the raise hand feature. It looks like we have one, Angel Castillo. Brandon, you want to give her are we good on your side?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, Angel. Thanks.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. As Chair Nadelsky had pointed out, the state says that this has to pass, and I am all about it passing. And I highly encourage you to follow this lead that many of the people who are experts at housing and data have decided that this is a way that we can help meet our housing demand. And, I'm a big fan of ADUs as they are soft density. They will not change the character and feel of a neighborhood because it's not a big apartment building, but it's a way for people to supplement their incomes and continue to stay in place if they're aging out of a 2-story home. So I'd encourage you, well, obviously you're probably going to approve this, to start thinking about removing the size restrictions on not attached ADUs while still keeping the requirement for being owner occupied. I think that's a very key piece of an ADU, that the owner of the property lives on site, and that way any sort of neighborhood issues are mitigated by the property owner being there. So I encourage you as you move into through this year that we look at that and that we remove the size requirement for freestanding ADUs. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Back to the council for questions or action.
Chair, I'll make a motion. I also am a big fan of ADUs. I think they are a good idea. And our hands are somewhat tied on this issue, so I will make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2022-4.
Second.
Did we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Thanks.
Ken Ritchie, seconded.
Yeah. Ken's face showed up, but I didn't hear anything in my audio side. So, okay, we have a motion by Council Member Heyer, second by Council Member Ritchie to adopt proposal ordinance 2022-4. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye, that passes. Next is the long-awaited proposed zone text amendment for mobile food trailers. Back to Greg again.
Okay, and this
presentation.
and this item is also city generated. This, of course, has come from the council requesting review of the ordinances and looking at making some changes to our present regulations regarding food trailers. We have present regulations that we adopted in 2017 regarding food trucks, and then we also included food trailers. But we made some distinctions between the two and where they can operate. So we did not allow food trailers to operate in the right of way, but only on private property. And then in 2019, the council requested that we look at that and allow them to have the same privileges as food trucks. Well, it took us a little while to get there, and I apologize for that. We do have a recommendation to you today for consideration. And that is to allow them in the right-of-way with a couple provisions. One is they're not allowed in residential zones except for special events on private property, or as we talked about in the work session, if, for example, if a church wishes to have something, they can agree to allow a truck to be in front of their property on the right-of-way. The vehicle has to stay hitched and connected, so it can be towed away without any problems. And limiting the size of the tow vehicle and the trailer to 40 feet or 2 parking stalls. Where we do have stalls marked, generally that distance is around 44 feet. But where stalls aren't marked, 40 feet is what the standard would be. So again, trying to look at occupying no more than 2 parking spaces in the public right-of-way. So again, we looked at this as having those same standards. Would still keep the restrictions that if they're parked in the right of way, they have to operate just as any other thing parked in the right of way. And if there's a time limit for 2 hours or 1 hour, they have to follow those standards. If there's not, then they don't have those time constraints. If they're parked in front of either a restaurant or place of worship, they need the property owner's approval to be parked in front of those specific uses. Again, both one for not disturbing the activities for a place of worship, unless that's something that we want to have there, or two, not giving direct competition by being the front door of a restaurant and offering something different where they do not have the brick and mortar overhead and the property taxes, and try to give some fair play, if you will, between the two types of opportunities to acquire food. The other thing we talk about and why we look at some of these code modifications is there are some differences between food trucks and trailers in their maneuverability, size and design. They have a wide spectrum of what they can be, but the fact that they can't be self-propelled makes a requirement that they got to remain hitched, so that if something happens, if they're unhitched, then they get boxed in and can't move and are taking 2 parking spaces. Just make sure we keep the public right of way for all the variety of uses it's meant to be. And then the other thing is, because of those multiple purposes, we have those standards in place. So the Planning Commission recommended 7-1 to approve the proposed ordinance amendment. The one dissenting vote was based on the fact that the sales tax business license is not collected generally by the city where a food truck or trailer may be, but by wherever their home base is. And that's why the one dissenting vote. But the recommendation is to approve with these requirements of the tow vehicle and trailer in place, 40-foot maximum or 2 stalls. And then clarification, again, they're not allowed in the residential zones except by special invitation for a special event or getting approval in the right of way by a church or the property owner of that event taking place. Any questions?
Thank you, Greg. Questions for Greg?
Yes, Chair, if I might, I don't think there's a good answer, but could you address the planning commissioners that voted to not recommend about the sales tax? That also is a concern that I have, but I don't know that there's a remedy. I think there's probably state law that trumps all of this stuff, but could you maybe address that with us?
You stated state law trumps it.
Rats.
Well, and that's true with a trailer or a truck, right? I mean,
correct.
So
at least there's equity of truck owners of food trucks that go to other cities outside Ogden as well. I'm sure that happens a lot too. So I had the same question, Rich.
and they have to now pay property or business property taxes, I guess, on both their trailer and their truck. So maybe there's.
But again, that's the locality where their home base is.
Okay, any other questions for Greg? Okay, let's turn it over for public input. This is your opportunity to address the council on this item. We'll start with Angel Castillo. You know the routine.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I'd like to thank Greg and the planning department for coming up with a very comprehensive way to put some parameters on functionality for citizens. But I think the most important thing I'm excited about is the fact that We're willing to consider trailers and will be doing so because there's an equity piece in that. The largest hurdle that a new business owner has to overcome is acquiring, it's either rent, and when you're talking about a food truck business, you're talking about the actual vehicle you'll be selling food from. And a food truck new costs anywhere from $50,000 to $175,000, and sometimes they can go up to $200,000, whereas a trailer is anywhere from $17,000 to $30,000. And those are new prices. You can always probably find it a little lower if it's used, but that is an equity piece to help people be business owners and to move forward to prosperity, to be able to buy homes and send kids to college and do all of those things. So this is a really great piece, and I very much support it. I too hear and echo the concerns with regards to picking up some taxes because businesses are about helping generate revenue for the city. And I urge you to consider a workaround to provide covering those taxes is to use empty lots in which the city owns, and I'll charge a lot fee to allow food trucks and trailers to congregate there and sell food. It's the properties there doing nothing, and there's always a good draw whenever you assemble more than one food truck for variety for people. So have a thought on that, and please vote yes and pass this piece, which will provide some business equity for some small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. We also have one caller who has joined us via telephone. If you also wish to raise your hand, just press *9 and we'll call on you as well. Okay, seeing no more hands raised, we'll go back to the council for comments, questions, or action.
Chair, seeing none, I would make a motion to adopt this ordinance 2022-5.
I'll second.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Lopez, second by Council Member Heyer to adopt proposed ordinance 2022-5. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Nadolski.
Aye, that passes. Thank you, Greg, for putting that together. I know it took a long time, but we appreciate that it got to the finish line. Next item is public comments. This is not.
Chair Nadolski.
Oh, yeah.
If I might, I just think I'd like to thank Glenn worked really hard as well on putting that ordinance together. And I think that we need to acknowledge the work he put in as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn, as I affectionately refer, Glennard Skinnard. You're an awesome staff resource, and thanks for keeping the energy behind this for council request.
Hey, and along those lines, I think it was just a great team effort. So I thanks for Janine to bring that up. And the initial request came from Marcia, and I started asking a lot about it and requested some action. And that's when I think the council got involved, and then the administration helped us and got involved. So I think it was a really, really nice team effort. So thank you to everyone. Really appreciate it.
Comment, thanks. Okay, next item is public comments. This is your opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. Before we go to Cindy, if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them at the end of the public comment. Either council or administration will answer depending on who's most appropriate to answer. And we'll start with Cindy Toon. Please say your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Cindy, thank you.
My name is Cindy Toon, and I live adjacent to the property on Porter, which was discussed earlier in the work session. And I have some comments I would like to share. I am very concerned about the size of the development that's being proposed. The right-of-way is not accurate on the diagrams that I'm seeing. I have the right-of-way and it is not accurate. The street on Porter is very narrow. It cannot accommodate 2 lanes of traffic and 2 parked cars. You can only park on one side of the of Porter. So I'm very concerned about additional traffic in that area. So reduced number of units would be more advantageous. The Art District's master plan that was originally proposed suggested a small 1-story buildings for artists, not 3- and 4-story blocks of buildings. I am very concerned about the proximity of this development to the historic homes along Jefferson Avenue. Ogden City has substantial investment in Jefferson Avenue Historic District, as well as the owners have a substantial investment in their properties. Many Ogden residents walk along Jefferson and read our plaques about our historic homes. And I think it would diminish the entire historic district to see a large block of buildings behind the home that you're viewing. I do know that there is no traffic light on Porter, and I am very concerned about the additional traffic that they are proposing with the additional units that are being proposed. This is now the 3rd owner of the property that has a 3rd proposal for this property, and they certainly have reduced the number of units, but it again is still a much larger development than I think the residents along the Jefferson Historic District would like to see. I don't know if I need an answer to that. I just needed to voice my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, going back to the list, Carrie Wayne, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kerry Wayne. I'm your neighbor from across the street in Marriott Slaterville. I'm coming back to you again because there's been a second meeting between cities. I asked my city administrator, Bill Morris, I asked him, I said, has anything happened? Nothing. We've agreed to meet again. I cannot understand how we can keep having meetings and nothing, absolutely nothing be done. I sent a letter in. I asked that the noise waiver be terminated because the pad has been poured, the floor or the walls are up. No response whatsoever from the mayor's office. I don't think that's a good way to treat a neighbor. You know, we've tolerated so much over here. And again, we have nothing but water and mud along 1200 West. Boyer has not taken care of it. Their side of the property the warehouses are all fully landscaped, look really good. But what we have over on our side is standing water. As soon as it stops freezing, we're going to have mosquitoes, and something needs to be taken care of there. I want to clear the air on some of the things that have been said in some of the meetings, that these warehouses were planned from the get-go. I have documentation that says that is not the case. Again, we haven't gotten what was originally planned. I'd like to do a couple quotes real quick. One of them is from Dennis Prager. It said, "Goodness is about character, integrity, honesty, kindness, generosity, moral courage, and the like. More than anything else, it is how we treat other people." There's also a Martin Luther King quote I'd like you to also have. "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And that silence is what we're seeing from Ogden City. We're not seeing a working partner on anything. It's basically our way or the highway. And again, I would like to, again, Bill Morris said they had another meeting. I'd like to see something come of something. I listed several things that need to be done over here. And I believe that the city council has the ability to press Boyer into being proactive in taking some of the problems on. Again, I told Cameron Cook, I says, you can't take credit for problems you created. And that's one of the things that has been so frustrating is we now have lights along 1200 West. That wasn't supposed to happen. They just pretty much put us on ignore whenever they choose to and just go ahead with whatever it is they're doing. We would greatly, everyone in this neighborhood would greatly appreciate your help. Again, thank you for all you do. Bye.
Thanks, Carrie. We'll turn to admin after we get the rest of the public comments for some feedback on your comments. We are reading your emails, so rest assured that we are. The council does not have the power to press the developers on those items. That would be an administrative duty. So we'll defer to them as soon as we hear back from the rest of the public comment. Thanks, Carrie. Okay, next on the list is Heath Sato. Heath, state your name for the record and then your comments in 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Heath Sato, Ogden resident. I was reading in the Standard Examiner yesterday that the city is, quote, scrambling to figure out the financing on the roughly $24 million parking deck for the Wonder Block. And it led me to think that we have made extensive plans and invested millions already into this Wonder Block property. We've tried to practically give away the historic Brown Ice Cream building to speed up the process. We have drawings and designs and have even seen concepts for how we might artistically treat the sides of the parking structure there. We did all this long before having any idea how the city would pay for it. And you know what? Cool. I'm all about progress and stimulating the economy and growing downtown. But when the Marshall White Center comes up, we keep hearing that first we have to figure out how we would pay for it. We've been in this catch-22 of having to work out all the details before we can even start working out the details. The administration has been presented with many options for how the center could be funded, but I've not seen any meaningful movement on it beyond a few members of the council bravely forcing this to be something the administration has to finally face. So I would welcome some explanation of the disconnect here. We went forward with designs and major plans around this $24 million parking structure that benefits people parking downtown, but creates even more benefit for the developer by making their project possible in the first place. And now we're scrambling to get the deck, that parking deck financed for that developer. And nobody's questioning how this parking deck will benefit all residents of Ogden, a sticking point for one council member in particular who keeps bringing this up as they're concerned about the Marshall White Center. So we have the administration wringing their hands about how we'll pay for the Marshall White Center in a manner that stifled movement on this issue for years. But for a developer, we'll find a way. We move forward against all odds. We scramble. I just wanted to mention this inconsistency in the hopes some will start thinking about why this is. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Heath. I made a note and we'll turn to administration for response on that after we hear from others as well. Next on the list is Angel Castillo. You know the routine.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I'd just like to bring a little attention and lift up some things that were said at the work session today with regards to the redistricting that has to happen. There are some very large unintended consequences that I think you need to consider. And to bring it all into focus, I'll talk about three things starting at the state level. Governor Cox lives on a ranch and is a big, strong proponent of making sure that rural needs are met because they're different than urban needs. And he understands it because he lives it. And if we look at Anna Keogh and Tammy Krieger, and the very special piece of Ogden that is Councilman Heyer's district. It's different. The needs for that community are different. It's got this rural feel. It has farmland. It has a Fort Bingham. It's different. And then when you go and you look at East Central, the needs of that community are also different. And by redrawing districts going from east to west, you are diluting the voices of particular communities whose needs are different. And they need to stay as a collective community with their needs, because what East Central needs is different than what Councilman Heyer's district is. And we have to be able to let those communities be represented. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form a PhD statistician, but you all know, and I know someone who is, and Dr. Jenny Nagy is very familiar with the census tracts and the dispersion of ethnic groups within those census tracts and the AMI within those census tracts. And so there's an equity piece on this as well. If you draw districts from east to west, you are not only diluting the needs of a community if it's more rural or if it's more urban, you're also having some unintended consequences that are directly connected to traditionally marginalized populations that have a lower economic AMI. And that's really important, because y'all are supposed to represent everyone. And if you dilute all of that to have a majority group that's going to be making decisions about a population it has no real connection with, that's not going to be easy. And that's going to have a lot of conflict. So please consider that. Please reach out to Dr. Jenny Nagy. And thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Angel. Next on the list is Dan McEntee. Daniel, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Looks like you're muted, Daniel. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
My name is Dan McEntee, and for those that don't know me, I am the person who purchased the Brown's Ice Cream building from Ogden City. I have done approximately 12 projects in Ogden. All of my projects have been projects that I purchased, buildings that were either abandoned or, run down, and they had low property tax values. And I took those buildings and invested my own funds. I have never borrowed any money from Ogden City in regards to any of these projects. So, I mean, I just understand that there are people that have been saying certain things in regards to this project. And what I can tell you is that I purchased this building from Ogden City. And I'd like that to be on the record that I purchased it at a fair market value based on the status of the building. And what I have done over the last 12 years, unlike some people that have discussed on this thing, I've created jobs, sales tax, increased property tax. I have not taken one dime from property tax rebates from the city of Ogden or the county. And I just kind of wanted this to all go on the record that, that people want to come on in front of the city council and make statements that are completely incorrect. And I grew up in Ogden. I've lived there over 60 years, went to Weber State University, went to high school in Ogden, and I love Ogden, and I care deeply about it. And that's why I do what I do. With that said, I also think that it needs to be said that Ogden is going through an incredible metamorphosis. And what I've seen in my 60 years in Ogden is that it has gone from a community of prosperous times to struggling times to now, I think, extremely prosperous times. And I think that that's a compliment to Mayor Caldwell's administration and to the present city council and the previous city councils. And I'm grateful for that. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, next is Daniel Matthews. Daniel, limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, my name is Daniel Matthews. I'm an Ogden resident. I just from earlier, sounds like we're going to get an update next week. But first and foremost, hope everybody in the city is staying healthy. But I would also like to say, I think the people who rely on places like the Marshall White and the Golden Hour Senior Center could really use having those opportunities back. So I hope that the city is able to come to the safest way to make that happen. I would like to note that other non-government situations like that, whether they're privately owned gyms or memberships or senior centers, I think even the library, there's ways I think we can open that stuff back up and be healthy. I would also like to say, as far as the Marshall White Center is concerned, I do have a question for the administration, if maybe they could answer later. And maybe it was covered and I missed it, but I don't understand why the city is unwilling to go after the federal funds for the Marshall White Center. And I just want to say thank you guys for coming to the resolutions and the conclusions that you had. But also, I think, as somebody else has previously mentioned, when you compare and contrast the way other projects in the city are handled versus the way the Marshall White Center has been handled for, I mean, the reality is decades, it really lets us know exactly what the city, and right now that's council and administration's priority level is for a recreation center in the heart of Ogden. So thank you very much for letting me speak and giving me the time. I hope you guys have a very nice evening.
Thank you, Daniel. Right back at you. We'll just to clarify, our conversation on Marshall White will be on the 15th. That's 2 Tuesdays away. Next Tuesday is a short agenda, if anything. So, but we hope to have a lot of good discussion there. Next on the agenda is Lydia Gravis or Gravis. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Lydia.
Gravis, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Lydia Gravis, please go ahead, state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thanks.
Great, thanks. My name is Lydia Gravis. I live adjacent to the Porter Avenue property that you talked about in your work session today. 2523 Jefferson is my address. I'd like to echo the concerns that my neighbor, Cindy Toon, has already expressed tonight. And I just want to share a little bit about my perspective. 10 years ago, I leveraged everything I had to buy and renovate this house. And it's been a pleasure to live in this community with shared vision with my neighbors to preserve the historic architecture on our street. I have concerns about the height of the buildings that are being proposed. I do appreciate the revisions the developer has presented to the council. I'm concerned that the height of the Porter buildings have been reduced, but not the ones that would be seen from Jefferson Avenue. I'd like to propose that units like 5 through 10, the ones kind of most directly behind our properties, be considered, or I'd like to propose that the council consider requesting the height of those units being reduced for reasons already shared by Cindy. I spend my day job working for Weber State University as the Director of Art Exhibitions and Public Programs for the Shaw Gallery. I've spent the last year working in a collaborative effort with the city and other stakeholders on the curatorial programming and the build out on the Dumke Arts Plaza. I don't think that we have to have a philanthropic donor behind a project to get the vision that we are looking for in this city. I think we can get that with a developer, but I think we need to be intentional and smart with our decision making. I'm concerned that the Arts District Master Plan hasn't been honored as much as it could be. Porter was suggested to be turned into a walkable street in that master plan, and one-story housing development was suggested as well. I don't mean to oversimplify things, but I'd like to encourage all of you to think about the master plan and think about the intentionality with which we're approving developments in this district. I don't think we by any means are desperate to get development underway. Lastly, I'm really concerned about safety. The amount of cars in and out of there, I'm really concerned about. I don't believe that the amount of traffic through there is reasonable. And a couple years back, a pedestrian was hit at full speed walking across 25th. I have small children. I'm concerned about them walking to school with more traffic on that street. My time is up, but I appreciate you hearing me out. I've been coming to these meetings for a couple years now, and I know growth is imminent, but I also just need to feel like I'm letting you know how I feel as a neighbor, community member, and arts professional. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Okay, seeing no other hands raised, we'll go to comments from the mayor and we'll ask Mark. I think Mark is here for the administration. Comments from Mark, and we'll ask some of these questions to you if it's okay.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just kind of go down the list here. We did have a meeting with Bill, who is the city administrator of Marriott Slaterville. There's been meetings with the mayor of Marriott Slaterville. The noise waiver is still in place because the concrete pours are not completed, but they're not going all night anymore. There's just a few pours that they've had to have that have started early in the morning. The water and mud issue on 1200 West, we're aware of. I'm not sure it's a new problem. I think it's just since the buildings have been built that it's an issue that people are looking at. We have to wait for a little better weather, and then we'll have those worked on to make sure that we take care of that. But right now it's too muddy. We're not going to be able to do anything with it until the weather's a little bit better. We're aware of them, and lawyers are aware of them, and that will be taken care of. We're working on other issues that we've met with Bill on. There were some questions Bill asked us that we have to go do some research on and get back with Marriott Slaterville. So our hope is to be able to be working on the lighting issues. As far as I've been told, there's no lighting on the back of the buildings. And if there is, on a rare occasion, I think there was one building that would have to have a little bit of lighting. It's going to be really focused lighting, so it's going straight down and not out. And so the lighting is something we're working on with Boyer. So I think we're making progress, not as quickly as I think the residents would want us to, but I think we are, and I think we'll continue to work on it. The next issue about...
Hey, Mark, real quick, before you move on to that one, how much longer are those concrete pours expected to take? Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. It's pretty granular, but hopefully not much longer.
As far as Alhide, we work on funding. We work on funding for lots of things. I don't know that I can really respond to that. We're working very hard right now on Marshall White. We're working very hard on some economic development issues. We're working on funding for employees who are losing right and left because of pay. I mean, so we're working on how to find funding maybe to increase employees in some areas. So funding is something that we spend a lot of time on. It's not as easy a topic as everyone I think believes it is. So I don't really know how to respond to that. I think there's we're working, I think, We have different parts of the city that are working on different kinds of funding, and we're doing our best. Then there was a comment about opening up, back up Golden Hours in Marshall White. We closed them as much about how bad COVID had gotten and the risk to the public as much as it was that we didn't have employees to keep some of these places open. We had so many employees that had COVID. It wasn't a safe place, and we had several employees who didn't really want to be right in front of the public. And so we temporarily, it's a very temporary thing. I think we're hoping that Marshall White and Golden Hours are back open, hopefully within a week. But we're working on seeing that we get enough employees back to work so that we can actually open these places back up. We've had employees working as many from home as possible. We've had employees working out of their cars if they are out and about. But we've been just decimated by the number of employees who have contracted COVID in the last probably 3-4 weeks. So we're doing our best. We agree Marshall White needs to be open as quick as possible. Golden Hours needs to be open as quick as possible. But some of this was to preserve our employees as much as the public. And we had many employees who were very grateful that we had some concern for them. So that was kind of behind that. I don't know that I saw any other questions to respond to, and I think that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Did you address the parking structure question?
Yeah, that was the funding when I talked about we work hard on all funding.
Okay, thanks. Okay, comments from council members?
Yeah, Sheriff, I have a real quick comment. And it's in response to just trying to figure out the districting. And I brought forward a different idea. I know that we're trying to come up with different ideas and not just stay in one idea as far as districting. I know that Councilmember Lopez brought up another idea as far as adding, everybody having districts. And so I just want to comment that, looking at bringing East and West together isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's actually, bringing all types of groups together and trying to get representation from across the city. And that was all I was trying to do. So I just want, as we look and go forward with redistricting and how we're going to change it, just giving people a different option than what we've had, just the same thing over and over again. And so that's more of where I was going with that. And so not looking at it so much as a, one side versus another side, but bringing all sides together is what I was hoping to do.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Any other council members have comments?
Can I have a quick comment? I just have a thought and a recommendation I would like to share with administration regarding the construction video. We all work very hard to have a meeting together with some council members and both administrations from both cities, and I think the meeting was very productive. I just wanted to make a recommendation that perhaps administration might be willing to create some kind of a schedule of when these issues will be resolved, so that the neighbors and the city of Mayor Slaterville have a better understanding and a better idea of that. And it's just a recommendation, right? It's not is their prerogative. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lopez. I think that's a good recommendation. Any other council members have comments?
Chair, I wouldn't mind making a comment.
Please.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on Councilmember White's comments about the different options for redistricting, and I just really look forward to getting feedback from the community. I guess my only concern with just going based on how we've done it last time, not even how we've done it in history, because in 2010 it changed quite dramatically. So I think that, I just want to have a way to explain to the constituents why we have made the lines that we have. And I would love to get feedback as well. I just don't see any sense in having one district that goes from east to west and have others be different configurations unless, there's some argument for that. So I would just like it to make more sense in some way. So maybe it needs to be 4 quadrants, and maybe we do need to redraw one that looks like that, which we didn't really ask to do too. So that's my thinking about it. Is I don't think that it's right now, to me, just doing it how we've always done it doesn't seem like the best policy either.
It's a good point. Thanks, Angela. Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, Chair, I'd like to weigh in on it. I think that I really liked what Councilmember White, her philosophy, her thought process, which mirrors mine a lot. The comments in public comment concerning, representing different groups because they're different is absolutely spot on. But I think all of us try to do that very thing. In my case, it was mentioned that, Anna Keogh, Tammy Krieger, that rural part of town is different than other parts. And just for, it's anecdotal, they actually aren't in my district. They are across the street from my district, but I feel a sense of, I feel compelled to represent their interests because they have them. I don't live in that kind of an area, but I do want to represent everybody with their interests that they do have. And I think all of our, all of my colleagues feel the same way. I think we can represent people that we don't live like or whatever. So, but I do want to, I do want to make sure that this thing is as fair as possible. I don't know. I don't see it as to be too complicated really, but I'm looking forward to see what people have to say too. I am kind of expecting that we'll have a variety of things if we have any at all. So anyway, just looking forward to what happens. So just thought I'd throw that out.
Thank you. Okay, others?
Chair, just a quick comment.
Yes.
Just 2 things. So yeah, I appreciate the public comment on the redistricting. We sort of asked for that. We want to hear what people are thinking, so that's appreciated as we consider that. There are certainly constraints, as we talked about in the work session, with regard to the voting precincts and how those have been drawn, and trying to figure out a way to meet the guidance on that. And so I am also interested to see what we can come up with there, and with the 2 plans that were proposed to us, or the 3, 2 of those, looking to get some comment on that. Also secondary or separate from that, I just want to recognize I received a request from a citizen regarding the driving up and down, or the cruising Washington Boulevard and some of the challenges associated with that. And I want to just express appreciation to Chief Young for his response to the citizen on that, and the efforts that the police department is undertaking to deal with that. And some of the challenges with, and I wasn't aware of this, I get apparently some of the exhaust systems, there's a toggle switch where you can turn them off and on. So it might make it a little bit harder to identify or catch some of those that are doing that or being loud. So I know the Ogden City Police Department is phenomenal. They've done a lot of work to address this, and they're still working to do more. The citizen suggested, is there a way to maybe have a place for those who want to cruise around that's outside of the residential areas. And you know, I don't know what the feasibility of something like that would be, but you know, I think about like the Rocky Mountain Raceway, but somewhere closer, right? That would be kind of cool to see if there was anything like that. But anyway, just still getting my feet wet here, but I appreciate everyone and working together on these issues. So thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Go Wildcats. Okay, Bart, anything tonight?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry, I've been off and on. I've had some construction going on, so it's been pretty loud here.
You're doing a good job. It hasn't been loud on our end. Thanks. I just wanted to say that, and this is probably something that we can address in the future on some of the changes we're proposing in our rules and norms to have kind of special recognitions in the beginning of our meeting instead of going through big ceremonial things. But we've talked a lot about equality tonight. We've talked a lot about recreation, Marshall White Center, social determinants of health, etc. I think it's important to note that tomorrow is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Being the daddy of two kiddos that are participants in sports, youth sports, who use the Marshall White Center, me and my wife coach at the Marshall White Center. We're very heavily focused on seeing prosperity at the Marshall White Center so that all of our kids can see opportunity and prosperity. But the National Girls and Women in Sports Day is always in the first week of February, and it's to acknowledge the accomplishments of women and girls and recognize the influence that sports has had and their participation in sports has had on women and girls. And also to honor the progress and continued struggle for equality for women in sports. And this year is actually the 50th year of Title IX, so they'll be celebrating that. So if the question is, where do we stand on recreation funding? I can tell you where I stand. It's very important to me. So I'm anxious to hear our update on the 15th and have that conversation. I think it's admirable that the city and the administration are going after major funding for major projects that are, one, absolutely critical to our continued health and survival, our water, two, our generational opportunities and economic development that are going to help propel our future. But I think it's important, if we're not going after state funds, that we have a plan for funding. And so I look forward to having that discussion on the 15th. So thank you, everybody, for your comments and participation tonight. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
It's also National Groundhog Day tomorrow. So
thank you.
Same stuff over and over again.
There you go. I know. Marshall White funding.
Yeah, go Groundhog. Go Puxadani Phil. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember White to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for everything.